I grew up in a customer comes first world. It took me 50 years to realize that if I'm not first, everything else eventually falls apart. That's perhaps the most profound, powerful, and I imagine relatable quote from my conversation with fellow podcast host, the co-host of the Missing Links Golf Show, and dear friend, past client, Andy Walker. And this is an enlightening conversation that I imagine is going to have a lot of relatability, specifically for those of you who are hardwired to serve, which leaves you stuck in this perpetual pattern of over-serving others at the expense of underserving yourself. And we get into a candid conversation around the shame and the guilt around putting ourselves first. Andy goes into the depth of his story, his environment and upbringing, and how that influenced how he shows up for himself, his wife, his kids, his business, his golf. And I share my own anecdotes struggling with what it means to be selflessly selfish. And I think you're in for a phenomenal conversation. It's going to challenge the way you think and force you to have some tougher conversations with yourself. And before we dive in, I want to give Andy all the credit in the world. He's a phenomenal host of the Missing Links Golf Show podcast, which is dedicated to the midlife golfer's pursuit of improvement, balance, and renewed sporting glory. And Andy has a decorated junior and amateur career as a golfer. He brings decades of competitive experience, business ownership, and real-world personal development into every single one of his episodes. And again, relatability, I think, is going to be so impactful for you. So I challenge you to really hear Andy, pause, reflect on some of the questions I toss to him or discuss myself. There's so much wisdom for you to learn and extract from this conversation. So without further ado, please help me in welcoming my dear friend, Andy Walker, to the show.
What's up, fellow golfer? You are in for a phenomenal treat today. This is a new experience, a new opportunity to bring on one of my dear friends, Mr. Andy Walker, who happens to be the co-host of the Missing Links Golf Show, an absolute must listen to. You've got to add it to your queue, follow and subscribe to it. And we're having a joint conversation on all things peak performance, peak health, peak optimization, golf and otherwise. Andy, it's such a treat to do this. How are you?
Yeah, good, Paul. How are you?
I am wonderful. And like we talked about before, I want to maximize our time, get the listeners tons of nuggets and wisdom to take notes on. And I want to open our conversation with the big, daunting theme of self-care. You and I imagine the listeners understand logically how important it is. Yet you and I also recognize knowing and doing are two different things. Share with us a little more. What have you learned about the importance of self-care as you've pushed through your professional and your golf career?
Yeah, it's a really big question, to be honest with you, and sort of if we just sort of take a step back to my childhood, I grew up. My folks had small businesses growing up, and they're very, very successful in small business, and they even sort of almost 20 years after retirement, their small business is still funding their retirement. So very, very successful business owners, and they had a service mentality, right? So it was always customer value, customer service. That's and I did some work for mum and dad. Was my first job, just doing some stuff in their shop, and customer service was drilled into me as a kid. That service mentality, where the customer always is first in line. And it's not the customer's always right, but it's that maintaining that service mentality where you're doing what you can to provide value for the customer. And then I saw my mum, who was just an incredibly giving person, who sacrificed a lot of her own personal goals, I guess, for my brother and I for our opportunities. So I grew up in this incredibly giving household. So I took that on, and that was or have always been my philosophy, both in my employment history, where I spent sort of 15 years working for other people, and now into my business life, where I've been in business now for 20 years. And for me, it's been a real struggle to be able to separate giving value to the customer, especially when the customer needs needs something, or there's something going on, and me taking a step back and looking after myself. And that's only sort of become tenfold since I've become a father. I've got a 12-year-old son and an 8-year-old daughter. And again, relationships, I've been married for 15 years, giving to family, trying to be the best husband I can be, trying to be the best father I can be. And I know you've had that experience. It's coming up to 12 months since you've been a dad. So that'll be an interesting conversation as to how you've dealt with this. But looking after myself, and I know we had these conversations when we were working together earlier this year about if you look after yourself, you can be the best version of yourself, which then helps sort of your experience with others, and that's always been a struggle, finding that balance between looking after yourself and making sure you're the best version of yourself, and still having that sort of, whether it be a customer client first, or being a giving father and giving husband. That balance has been incredibly difficult for me.
It's interesting what you shared, and I so appreciate the vulnerability. I wrote down something you said when you were speaking about your customers. They need you at your best. You are not at your best if you're not taking care of yourself. And far more important than the customer will ever be is your wife, your family, your children, who again need you at your best. But there's like this paradox created, and especially when you're raised in an environment emotionally and physically where it's give, 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 that giving is what's really demonstrated that that's how you be your best. But if you keep doing that while simultaneously neglecting yourself, you don't have much, if anything, left to give. And what was so interesting for you, Andy, and speak as little or as much on this as you feel comfortable, but we were able to unpack together through our work. There were some pivotal conversations that decades later are just phrases that were used by your parents, who role modeled success in the entrepreneurial world, who role modeled marital success, all around giving and customer first, that young Andy latched onto because A, it was just impressed upon him, but B, it was the only way you ever saw things done. And on paper, everything looked really successful.
Yeah, absolutely, and it is a really interesting dynamic there, where our relationship went with when we were working together. In that, I came to you in December last year, thinking, okay, well, I want to improve golf. I do a lot of trading on the financial markets. I wanted to improve that side of me, so I could really take advantage of the opportunities that I believe 2025 would bring. And it changed what our focus was, or what I thought our focus was going to be, changed back to, okay, well, what are those beliefs that you've had since day dot, basically, that you grew up with, that are holding you back from where you want to go? And I know we talked initially about the whole introverted perspective. I've always seen myself as an introvert. As a kid, I barely said anything. I didn't say boo to anyone. So I was a really quiet, shy kid. Didn't really like the spotlight. And just how that dynamic played into my mindset around, okay, well, how's this played out previously with, especially your golfing goals? I wanted to turn pro and play pro golf as a young guy, and obviously, if you're winning golf events, that puts you in the spotlight. So then, has that belief of being an introvert impacted where you are or where your performance on the golf course. And that's sort of similar in the trading field, is that I'm part of a few different trading groups, and if I start talking about being successful and being successful, that puts me in the spotlight. So me having the belief of being an introvert potentially has that self-sabotaging impact. So I think that was probably the first, I guess, light bulb moment that I had with our work, to be able to understand where I was coming from in that perspective.
Yeah, and then being able to further connect the dot. Like I wrote down as a reminder, I share this so often here on my podcast with my clients, like specific to our golf listeners, it's you bring your whole self to the course, not just part of you. You don't get to leave all the emotional baggage at home or lock it in the trunk of your car when you take your clubs out. That's just not how it works. And the same applies to trading or any one of your professional endeavors. And it all starts with you. So as you've gone through, I mean, 2025 has been, I'll let you describe it better than I can, roller coaster, learning lessons galore. But what I love to hear as a friend and in that coaching relationship we established was that just you began to lean on prioritizing your health and well-being. And in fact, in many ways, it became the foundation that helped you overcome many of the expected challenges you encountered. Share a little bit more about what your relationship with self-care has looked like, especially given you were raised to kind of give to others first.
Yeah, I would. I mean, inconsistent is probably sporadic is another word that I would use. It fitted in when I had time, or when I thought I had time. And I know we've all got 24 hours in a day, 7 days a week. So we get to choose what we do and how we engage with those hours. So, when people say, "Oh, you can just fit it in," for me, I always looked at it and went, "Well, it's not just about fitting it in, because there's got to be a priority there." So, if I'm spending time in one area, that means I can't spend time in another area. So for me, it was about stripping it all back and trying to understand what's important to me. Okay, what are my priorities in life? It doesn't matter what my clients or customers' priorities are. I need to strip it back and figure out what it is that I want from my life. And then I can start those building blocks of, okay, well, what does my week, month, year look like? And I think that was sort of the start of it, understanding, that you need to be the best version of yourself, showing up to customers, clients every single working day. Yes, I understand the customer service and providing value for your customers, and that's always going to be part of my business. I'm never going to let that go. That's such an important part of business, but it's not necessarily the very top priority. The very top priority of my business, because I'm so ingrained in my business, is me and my self-care and making sure that I'm showing up as the best version of myself that I can. And then I can provide service and value, and getting those three, I guess, priorities in place was a real shift for me.
Yeah, I love that. And I'll speak to my experience around self-care, especially, being a fairly new father in a moment. But I'm curious, previously, because you admitted it, like, and everyone listening, myself included, goes through these phases where we know the importance of self-care, especially we're kind of latching on to the exercise realm, it seems here, but it really expands to the meditation, the breathwork, the presence, the silence, the stillness. Did you ever feel selfish making time for these things?
Oh, 100%. So my podcast host, Steve, and I talked about meditation a lot, certainly in the first 12 months of our podcast. And we always came back to the viewpoint of, this feels very self-indulgent. In a world where, there's so many competing priorities, to be able to take even 5-10 minutes out of our day and just sit down and take that time for ourselves. It just felt really self-indulgent, but that was I guess before you and I started working together, and I had this sort of, I guess, as I said before, the light bulb moment of, okay, well, if I'm doing those things, if I'm taking that time out, and the best thing I've done is making it my first priority in the morning. So now
Mm-hmm.
exercise and meditation, I'm getting up an hour earlier than what I was prior to exercising. Prior to uh, uh, prior to exercising, and then doing my exercise session, doing my meditation session, and that sets me up to have a really great day, and also
Yeah.
takes care of that, I guess, that cardio and resistance and mental side of my well-being. And then all I've got to really focus on is then diet and making sure I'm eating the right things throughout the day, and my self-care is 80% done.
Yeah, I love that. For me, what's interesting is I fell in love with exercise 10, 11 years old. I remember being in sixth grade. I would beg my gym teacher to let me in the weight room during lunch. Like, this is just
Mm,
this addicted kid. And for those of you listening, you have to remember, like, as a 16-year-old in high school, I was about 5'3", 110 pounds soaking wet. I was tiny, looking for every edge I could to keep up with everybody bigger, stronger, faster. But fatherhood
mm,
definitely threw me for a loop. I mean, I was like
yes.
clockwork at the gym 5, 6 days a week, depending on my training split, ever since I can remember. And, I live 10 minutes from my gym. But suddenly that 10-minute drive felt like 9 minutes too far away when I had my little one. We're going through the newborn phase. And it's like, okay, like maybe my 5-day split becomes 4 days a week or maybe 3 days a week. But wait, I want to golf too. Like for me, it was like, just like you alluded to, now suddenly there are so many conflicting priorities. I can't do them all. And candidly, for the first couple months after my son was born, I was experiencing a lot of anger. I wanted to
Mm,
do it all. I wanted to
yep.
do everything. I wanted to live life like I was still a single adult, and I wasn't. And that was really challenging for me. So again, like Andy shared, I had to start parsing back what's important, what's a priority, what's urgent versus what's not. And it's definitely been an evolution these past 12 months because golf is very important to me. And it was really hard. How do you get away for 5 hours when you have a newborn? You just don't is the correct answer, I should say. And inevitably, I've found a place now where I made the investment. I've got some equipment for my gym or for my garage now. So I can have a quick workout when the nanny's here and I'm in between work calls during the day because I need to maximize time with the nanny, but also take care of myself. So there's a few days a week, 5 a.m. as soon as the gym opens, I'm up, I'm at it. And a couple other days a week, it's gonna get done. It's a bit more flexible. It depends on my work calendar, but it's always blocked on my calendar. And that's been the biggest tool for me is so I can see it and I put it in all caps on my calendar. It's a different colored meeting event. I see it every day. I give myself permission to drag and drop the start time, but it gets done on those certain days. And for me right now, it looks like 4 workouts a week.
Yep, yep. And one of the things that I've found really useful in going through that process, and I think it's a critical part of the process, is getting it out of your head and getting it down on paper. And I've always been a reasonably, big goal setter, but I haven't really got my thoughts out of my head onto paper. It's been, okay, I want to achieve this by this date. I want to achieve by this date, which is great. I mean, they're all outcome based goals.
Yeah.
But then thinking about, okay, well, what are my priorities in life, and what are the steps that I need to action to be able to get to those goals, and then being able to give those priorities. And I have a tendency to think a lot when I'm driving, so I'll think a lot when I'm driving about what my priorities are. And then when I get home, I'll just spend 5 minutes writing them down, and just so I don't sort of forget what I've been thinking about. So for me, getting it out of my head as well, A, for mental clarity,
Mm-hmm.
but B, for really understanding and looking at it and reading it back to yourself as if someone else has written it down,
Yeah.
to try and understand, okay, well, what are really my priorities here?
I really like that. I'm the guy driving who's like voice noting himself while driving, because like you, that's when all my great ideas come. Like, oh shit, I can't stop. I'm just gonna voice note it, and then like
Yep.
the Siri picks up some of the words correctly, others not, but it typically makes sense in the end.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
I
Yep.
love what you said though. There's so much power in writing it down, and one of my mentors taught me, like, if you want to really see what your priorities are, bring up your calendar. If it's not blocked off, if it's not made, if there's not time made for it, it's clearly not a priority. So again, having it on the calendar, getting it done first thing in the morning, where, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I know we spent some time conversing. It's something that really revolutionized my approach to goal setting. It's easy to get excited about the end goal. I want to achieve X, Y, and Z by this date, get really clear on the outcome, the performance goals, the processes. But I think underneath all of it, you need to ask and answer the question, who do I need to become to be a scratch golfer, to hit 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures, to be the best husband, father, whatever it is? Like, who do you need to become? It's a subtle reframe that answers the questions: what do you need to believe about yourself? What habits do you need to prioritize? And how do you need to show up and carry yourself? And it's almost different and almost backwards than how most people approach traditional goal setting. But if you want the sustainable success, it requires an identity transformation. And that question has always been incredibly helpful for me.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I think your identity, and your values and beliefs, and like we did, sort of stripping it all back, coming down to those core foundations of, okay, well, what's there that's important in my life? I mean, for me, my own health and well-being, it has to come first. And I've had a couple of health challenges this year as a result. Some as a result of lifestyle, but there's a big sort of genetic issue that I have, which we can sort of touch on a little bit later. So that's something that's really given me, I guess, a bit of a kick up the rear end to make sure that I'm looking after myself. But being a good husband, or being a great husband, being a great father, being a mentor to my kids, not just sort of getting home from work and, moping around and being really tired. I want to be able to engage with my kids and be a role model for them, and not just, the do as I say, not as I do. I want to make sure that my kids, I show my kids the best version of myself, so they can see, okay, well, this is how dad's living his life. So, they can see a really good example of someone who's trying to live their best life according to their own beliefs and values. So that one is really, that sort of comes after my looking after myself. And then obviously, friends and extended family is really important to me. So I always make sure I've got time for them, and just picking up the phone to friends that I haven't maybe touched base with for 3 or 4 months. That's really important to, I guess, my social circle. And then sort of business comes after that. And yes, money's important. But when I strip it all back, the customer comes first mentality doesn't really serve where I really, what the top priorities of my life are.
So expand upon this for me. This is something, candidly, I felt I gave you very little guidance on, and I was so impressed because you already had your knowledge and experience on it. But the way you did it and demonstrated to me, I was like, that's incredible. And what I'm alluding to is, like, you've done an excellent job personally getting clear on your life values, what it is you value. You've allowed those to kind of be your northern star, your guiding light, if you will. Like, walk us through, like, when I say the word life value, like, how do you define it? What are your life values, and what was that process like in getting clear on those?
I think it's just It's not something that you just wake up and you understand what your life values are, right? And a lot of it, I mean, we did some hypno work, so there was a lot of, I guess, light bulb moments through that process, but not just through the process. It's then thinking about, okay, well, what happened during this session?
Mhm.
And what can I learn from it, and what does this really mean? And then you start to unravel it a little bit, and these other light bulb moments come along as a result
Yeah.
of the initial light bulb moment. So for me, it's then writing these important beliefs and values down that I want to take on board, and then go, okay, well, if I'm the sort of person that wants to be a mentor to my kids, what actions do I need to take every day? What mental attitude do I need to have every day to be able to have this play out in my life? So, and it's a process. It's not something that, as I said, you take on straight away, but it's about a getting that understanding first. And for me, doing the hypno sessions is something that was really valuable to become aware of where I was at, but then start that process of moving towards really what my life values and who I want to be as a person. So yeah, it's starting there, and then giving yourself time and space to be able to think through those light bulb moments and figure out exactly what they mean, and then
Mm.
write them down, prioritize them, and then start taking the actions towards implementing it into your life.
I love that. They serve as almost filters for your decision making, and they guide you in how to go about best spending your time, your energy. And I think, too, the hidden gem you shared was just the power of reflection, meaning slowing down, reflecting on whether it's coaching calls or just even your day, whatever thoughts have been coming to mind, especially when you're driving, and getting them onto paper so you can better make sense of them. Like, I think so many people listening are still missing out on an opportunity for clarity and growth in terms of having some form of practice that allows them to reflect and, I like to say, emotionally vomit so they can make sense of who they are, what they're feeling, and move forward positively.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I one thing I missed, and a really important part of, I think, what my evolution has been this year is implementing that breath work and
Mm,
meditation into my exercise sessions. And it is at the end of my exercise session, so I'll do it's a 24-minute resistance training workout with
Mhm.
dumbbells, and then I've got a cross trainer where I'll do a 16-minute interval training session. And then at the end of that 40-minute session, I'll sit down and depending on sort of what I've got on in the day, minimum 6 minutes. But then sort of up to 10 minutes, I will spend initially just doing some breath work and doing some connected breath work. And then I'll
yeah.
do a little bit of visualization, just to set myself up for the day so I'm in the right mental frame to be able to get through the day. And for me, that has given a lot of clarity.
Mm,
Firstly, around what I want to achieve for the day and what my mental outlook needs to be for the day. But then it also clears the confusion and clears the clutter for other, I guess, more profound thoughts to come into my brain
Yeah.
and into my mind, to then go, oh wow, okay, that's really interesting. I want to follow that and write it down, and maybe follow that up with a little bit of sort of thought later on.
what I hear too, clarity, preparation, energy. Those are kind of the end states you desire at the end of this morning routine. And if you're listening and you're like, okay, Andy's routine doesn't suit me, or I don't want to exercise first thing, or I don't want to meditate, visualize, breath work, whatever, you still desire, at least, you are a high performer to some degree if you're listening to a podcast. I have an imagination you desire to feel fucking good to start your day. How you get there isn't as important as A, clarity on how you want to feel, and B, taking some form of consistent action to cultivate those feelings. Like I know for me, in this chapter of life, like I have a quick 5-minute mobility and movement routine in the garage while the coffee's brewing. I come down, I journal, I read my 10 pages, and then I dive into my most important task. 2 days a week, I'm exercising right after that just because that's my schedule. But the other 5 days, that's my morning routine. And that's what gets me locked in, focused, and gives me the best chance possible to enter the beautiful flow state that we all crave, love, and desire.
Yeah, yeah. And one other part of my, I guess, mental health routine as well, and when we're bringing it back to golf, is allocating time. And I'm fortunate that I've got the space to be able to have a golf simulator out in, well, I've got a 6 meter by 3.5 meter shed. You'd have to sort of convert that over to feet. What's that? Probably about sort of 20 feet long by about 10 feet wide, something like that.
But hold on, don't just call it a shed. What's it called, Andy?
It's just so we've named it the High Performance Center. So
thank you.
The long name is the Missing Links Golf Show High Performance Center Lake Macquarie. So that's the long technical name. So I've got both my exercise equipment and a golf sim in the High Performance Center, and that to me, it's allowed me. I do most of my work from home, which is great. It allows me in between clients to sneak out, hit a few balls into the sim, and just have a bit of a mental reset before I go on to the next client, and just gives me that space. It also obviously allows me to continue on the golf improvement journey. That the reason why Steve, my podcast host, and I started the Missing Links Golf Show. And yeah, it's been a godsend for me to be able to have the space to be able to set the golf sim up, just to integrate that a lot more fully into pretty much every day. Whereas previously, before the golf sim, I'd have to, be maybe once a week or once every couple of weeks. I'd go down to the range, or I'd try and book into my local club to play a comp round, and it would just be, like my exercise routine, very sporadic. Yeah. But being able to integrate golf into almost every day of my life has been such a mental health positive. It's been so positive for my mental health that I'm so glad that I've had the ability to be able to integrate that into each and every day.
At some point, and this comes directly from James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, the behavior change you desire to make needs to become easy and irresistible. It doesn't get much more easy and irresistible than having the High Performance Center right out in your backyard. And I'm not suggesting you go out and buy a sim and build a shed in your backyard. It can be as simple as trying to change your exercise or your diet habits and having the appropriate food in the refrigerator and pantry, and having your gym clothes and shoes laid out the night before. Make it easy. As Andy and I have alluded to this entire conversation, there is so much information that we are privy to, 1 million bits per millisecond, it seems like, and it's just a constant quest to declutter. Decisiveness, simplicity, less is more is the recipe for ease and effective consistency.
Yeah, absolutely. And where that ease of access, I guess, to exercise equipment. I mean, I've never really liked going to the gym that much. So having exercise equipment right next door, as well as having the golf sim, that to me is a critical part of it, because you're removing those walls, you're removing those blocks to be able to get access to those things that are really important to you. So for me, I literally open up the back door, I take 10 steps and I'm there. There's, we moved house earlier in the year. Previous to that, it was in my garage. So it was quite literally, I'd open the door to the garage and I'd walk into the golf sim. So yeah, for me, that ease of access is a critical part of making sure that you're implementing the things into your life that are really important.
Speaking of, what else was important? What did I miss that you wanted to cover here, giving you a chance to throw one back at me, if you will?
Look, and certainly from my perspective, I see sort of your journey through the last 12 months. I mean, obviously we worked together earlier in the year. You've become a father in November last year, and you talked a little bit earlier as to what that meant, and it sort of threw a little bit of chaos into your life.
Yeah.
So what have you done? How have you gone about your life and your priorities, and not just being a father, but also still playing golf and looking after sort of those things that are important to you? What are the specific actions that you've taken to be able to allow you to maintain that sort of focus, that priority on yourself?
It's a great question. Initially, I would describe the first 3-6 months as falling back into the habit of pushing and pressing, trying to muscle my way through. And what I mean by that was still working the long hours, still getting the gym done as best I could, still trying to find time on the calendar for golf, but at the expense of, my listeners know this, Andy, you may not even know this yet. So like my son and his mom, we're not together. So the fact that all transpired in this last year, and it's absolutely for the best for everybody involved, but like I muscled my way through a lot of things, going. One of my old default patterns is doing.
Yep.
And it really took me having an honest, like I can remember actually looking myself in the mirror one day and just kind of wondering, like, how did I get here? And it was me falling back into the old pattern of just doing and doing, thinking that the doing was going to provide the validation, the feelings of worthiness that I desired. But like you can allude to with the giving to others and neglecting yourself, me just doing instead of being, I was neglecting myself, the areas I needed most, connecting with the stillness, the silence, the solitude, to be decisive, to be clear-headed, to really see what was going on. Like you can't keep operating at this pace and going in this direction, or things around you are going to continue to feel chaotic. So the biggest collection of steps I've taken that have proven most productive, having the courage to ask for help. And I've worked with coaches for years, and I worked with my own mindset performance coach for the last maybe almost 7 years. That's crazy to think about. So leaning on her, she's absolutely phenomenal. Having the courage to text some of my close friends like, hey, this is what's going on. This is what I'm struggling with. I don't need anything at the moment, but I want to at least let you know. Because in the past, like many, many years ago, when I went through a divorce, I didn't tell some of my best friends for 6-9 months. And it was due to shame, not wanting to burden them. But I found in opening up and being vulnerable, I've been met with support. I've been met with empathy. And that's helped, kind of like we talked about earlier, it's lightened the mental and emotional load, which has helped me feel, I don't know if safer is the right word, but we'll go with it, in slowing down and starting to lean into the being. And as a result, the consistency of some of my other non-gym self-care practices have been greatly increased. More plunging, more meditation, more being, more stillness, more permission to not log on to my email at 8 p.m. and trust that the emails will still be there tomorrow. Yes. So I can unwind, rest. And that's where my evolution has really been the last 3 months, is leaning into more rest, more downtime, more ease, and recognizing the pace that I've been on can't continue because the biggest and most important priority in my life is my son. And I am so grateful. Like you, I work for myself. Today's a Monday, we're recording. I have all Wednesday off because I'm just spending the day and the night with him. I'm very fortunate to be able to do that. But old me would have had the nanny come an extra day of the week so I could get some work done. And I'm really leaning into that. It's not as easy as maybe I'm making it sound. It's definitely produces some discomfort, but I know it's the right trajectory.
Yeah, and one of the things that I really take out of that conversation is reaching out and asking for help with those people that you trust. I mean, I feel very lucky that I've got some really good mates that I can have some conversations with. I have some great conversations with my mum as well. She's become quite a close confidant as well, especially in relation to my health. But being vulnerable, and a lot of people see vulnerability as weakness, whereas for me, and especially as blokes, like we need to show our strength. That's sort of part of, I guess, our natural sort of DNA is that we need to be strong and
that testosterone.
Yeah, right. And being vulnerable is really, really hard, but it's also really, really critical, I think, to be able to look after ourselves and share our experience with those around us that we trust. And you've got to pick and choose. You don't share with everyone. Here we are talking on a podcast about our vulnerabilities, but that's a different conversation. But that vulnerability I find has been really cathartic in dealing with the challenges that I've been through, not just over the last 12 months, but over the last few years.
Yeah, really well said. And vulnerability, it's a superpower. There's so much strength in asking for help. And you hit the nail on the head, especially as men, or in what they say down under is blokes. I love all our little differences. Yeah, we're hardwired. It's weakness. We're stubborn. It's truly, I always come back to, you've probably heard me say this dozens of times, asking for help accelerates results. You can emotionally unburden yourself, mentally unburden yourself, free yourself up to go faster and further than ever before.
Absolutely. And it also, I think, comes back to a little bit of pride and ego as well. I mean, and certainly, from my perspective, I talked a little bit earlier on about a couple of health challenges that I'm having, and one of those is a cardiovascular issue that I have, and it's a genetic issue that I've got from my dad's side. But you hear these guys that they drop dead with a heart attack in their early 50s. Well, I'm in my early 50s, and I'm in a prime category for that to happen. Now, I walk down the street, and there's no way that anyone would think that there's any issue. But just like my golf, in that I've got all the metrics that I need to be able to improve with golf, I've also gone and got all the metrics that I need for my health as well. And one of those things that was picked up was this cardiovascular issue, and that's where I've got a lot of information from my mum. She's been amazing with the work that she's done and the information that she's got me. But I've also seen a functional medicine doctor, a practitioner who's been really helpful. And now I'm seeing a cardiologist as well. So again, it's letting go of that. I think the pride, the ego, no, I should be right. I'm good. It'll work itself out. Because I mean, while there are no guarantees in life, you can certainly put the odds in your favor. And I think just going, "No, she'll be right, mate," to say as Australianism, is not the best way forward.
Well said. I really like that. I'm proud of you. And really, I think what is even more important is asking for help is great. Take the fucking action after you get the feedback, the advice, or you're able to weigh the pros and cons of what was shared. And you've done a tremendous job leaning into consistency in the gym, self-care, and in the kitchen. So kudos to you.
Yeah. Thanks, Paul. I appreciate it. It's been well, as Steve and I like to say on the Missing Links Golf Show, it's been a pilgrimage. So we're on a golfing pilgrimage, but it's not just golf. You can expand that out to life as well. We're all on a pilgrimage to find the Holy Grail.
I love that. And on that note, for the new listeners that are hearing from you for the first time, tell them a little more about the show, what they can expect when they start tuning in, and how to find you guys to listen consistently.
Yeah, so we're Steve and I we host the Missing Links Golf Show. Find us on any podcast platform. We're just two blokes. I turned 50 a couple of years ago. Steve turned 50 earlier in the year. We're on this pilgrimage of I tried to play pro golf and obviously it didn't quite work out. But I felt like I left my best golf on the golf course. Steve sort of was the same with cricket. So cricket's one of our national sports, sort of similar to what baseball is in the US. Steve played quite a high level of cricket. So we're on this, I guess, this mission to reclaim our sporting glory into middle age. So we're about balancing family, business, life, and the challenges of life, and bringing it together to still be able to improve at golf. So our goals are to play and compete in senior amateur events in New South Wales, our home state. Senior amateur events start at 50, so we're now starting to play in some senior amateur events. So it's all about balancing life and golf, and chasing middle-aged sporting glory, as we like to call it. So we've got a Facebook page, the Missing Links Golf Show. So find us there. We're trying to do more on social media, but we struggle sometimes with getting posts up. But you'll find us on Facebook, and then the Missing Links Golf Show at gmail.com if you want to reach out and find out a little bit more about the show.
Highly recommend. It's such a great listen. They both do a tremendous job. And if you're new to me, welcome. Really enjoyed this experience with Andy. I'm the host of the Scratch Golfers Mindset podcast. I'm a mindset and performance coach, as well as a credentialed hypnotherapist. And in short, as Andy kind of alluded to, I help my clients get unstuck out of their own way so they can achieve and be and play to their potential. And my show is a blend of bringing on other experts in the performance psychology, the sports psychology space. But really, I take pride in going where most shows don't. I don't want to talk about the mental game of golf. I want to talk about the mindset, the darkness, the ego, the things that you're afraid or ashamed to discuss that truly hold you back. And the whole premise of my show is uncovering the destructive mindset programs and dismantling those patterns of thinking, feeling, believing, and behaving that are holding you back from being the best version of you. And that's on Apple. It's on Spotify. Again, the Scratch Golfers Mindset podcast. I have a lot of fun there. 2 episodes a week. I hope that you will tune in. Andy, what a blast. Really love the idea. I'm grateful we did this.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Really appreciate it. It's been a little while since we last caught up, and I know you came on our show. Well, it's almost 12 months ago that you first came on our show as well. It's always great to catch up, and really appreciate your work and what you've done for my mental and life outlook. It's been phenomenal.
Yeah, you are quite welcome. And for those of you listening, thank you for tuning in. Make sure, if you're not already, go ahead and listen to and subscribe to Andy's podcast, The Missing Links Golf Show, as well as the Scratch Golfers Mindset podcast, and give them the 5-star rating they deserve. 2 phenomenal podcasts, 3 phenomenal hosts doing everything they can to help you be the best version of yourself. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Andy, how do you sign off on your show? I forget. Lead it out Australian style for us.
There's really only one way that we sign on our show. We do it every week. Rock out, pilgrims.